We're just glad. So we're really glad you joined us today. And we're really, really grateful that on our team we have Christos, who is not only a genius professor and writer and does a lot of things. And yes, he's the CTO/COO of Living Opera, but he's also teaching a token economics class at the University of Nicosia. And so that's pretty amazing. Okay, there you are. So we're going to see you.
Yeah.
And that means that he's not just telling you stuff because it sounds good. He's kind of pioneering what people are learning about around the world. And the University of Nicosia is pretty much the only university to have a metaverse master's program, right?
Right. And also they were the first to have the blockchain and digital currencies master's program. And so like MIT, Stanford, Harvard, they don't have these programs. Yeah. They maybe have a few faculty that are somewhat knowledgeable about it, but they don't actually have programs on it. And most of the faculty just don't know anything about it. So University of Nicosia is really leading the way on Web3 work.
Yeah, it's incredible. And actually,
awesome.
I'm actually even like thinking about taking a degree with them eventually, because they give a lot of grants away and stuff like that. So it's also just a tip for people. We can, if anybody's interested in that, you can write to us at Living Opera and ask us about how to do that. Anyway, yeah, you can get a degree in it. Yeah, and the thing is, like right now, we're kind of on day zero of NFTs, metaverse, like not blockchain. Blockchain's been around for at least 10 years, right?
Yeah, well, a little bit longer, but it started gaining popularity in like.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry for the hardcore blockchain people who will see this on the replay. But anyway, but last year there was this major hype about NFTs and it just blew up, and it just seemed like everybody was like getting rich really fast, and it seemed full of hype and maybe not so trustworthy and not like the best thing, and it got a lot of flack, and that's obviously died down. Most projects are virtually worthless at this point. And the technology is still around. The technology is good. A lot of how people use the technology is bad. And what we had, and Christos, please correct me if I'm wrong, is a lot of people inflating like the price of things to sort of make this big hype and to make this, seem something that it's not. And so that's what we want to dispel a little bit, because for us as artists, like it's a very important mechanism, and it's not something that's going away. I just this hasn't been introduced for everybody on social media, but I just had Instagram and Facebook give me the option to display digital assets on my profile. So you know that if Mark Zuckerberg has put all his like weight behind this, it's coming into the mainstream sooner than you think. And so this isn't something that's going away. So it's something that we should face. And I feel like for us in classical music, we're always just like a little bit behind. And I want to change that. So it's like, okay, we have the opportunity to finally be ahead of something. One of the anecdotes I tell whenever we're talking to people, you're blurred out there, Norman.
I know, that's okay. Like that. I can just sit back like it's fine.
Okay, great. Be literally invisible. Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the anecdotes I tell, especially people who are not in our sector, is like our business is so reticent to use technology that one of the major agencies literally got an Instagram last year. And that's fine. It's neither here nor there. They're able to do their business without it, but it doesn't help us grow our business.
Yeah.
And I think as many tools, like especially like quote unquote free tools, even though it's not free, they're selling your data. We can get into that another time. Free tools that you can use to grow your business, like you should use them, and it's important. So of course, the pandemic, everybody in the classical music business seemed to go online. We were already using this stuff like 1 year ahead of that, and people were like, "Whoa, what are they doing?" But it proved to be like very fruitful and a good thing. And now we obviously have the Living Opera community, which is a worldwide community, and that's like something we never anticipated happening. And now we're on the forefront of something. And one of the things I really want to get out of the way before Christos just starts to talk about this is, yes, you can invest in an NFT, and we can talk about that, but people are not being very transparent about what that means. When you buy an NFT, it's like buying stocks, okay? So if somebody tells you buy this NFT and you're going to get rich, first of all, they're not telling you, oh yeah, and also you're subject to like securities laws in the country where you live. Like that's a super important thing that people are just kind of conveniently leaving out, making a lot of money off of investors and then like not telling them the liabilities. Like they say like do your own research or disclaimer. And that's literally not enough for people to know what they're getting into.
Especially when people don't know what it is before they don't even know how to research.
Yeah. You don't know the questions to ask. And it's like, do your own research. Like you mean with the zero data
like,
that you put online.
So this kind of stuff makes me really upset and I don't like it. And so I wanted to make sure that people know when we're talking about our projects, we are going to clearly differentiate between ones where we believe anybody who buys an NFT would be paid versus ones where we are testing out new models for arts philanthropy. And that is extremely important. And any person who has an NFT project that hasn't consulted with lawyers and told you they consulted with lawyers is also not very trustworthy. And they need to say that up front, okay? This is like super important. We had to meet with securities lawyers. We had to meet with regular lawyers. We had to make sure everything was compliant. We're still learning about it. So
yeah,
like that's partly why we're going to talk about our project Magic Mozart at the very end, but that's why we're starting with a project that is more on the philanthropy side, because we want to avoid all of that and just learn and see if we can build a community around NFTs, because part of what we're seeing here is that this could be a mechanism and a structure to help artists connect directly with philanthropists rather than having to go through like an intermediary, like an opera company or a young artist program, et cetera. So that's kind of what we're thinking about here. So without further ado, I want to invite Christos to give his presentation. We're not going to keep you long. We're going to try and keep it very compact. This is just like our first intro. And then as time goes on, we will invite you into more complicated, I suppose, discussions, but we're not going to get super complex. But I just want to get that all out of the way, because for this to be widely adopted, there has to be a level of transparency. And so then, so if you see some sort of project and people are just telling you, yeah, you're going to get set for life, it's like, excuse me, are you even like considering the fact that it's not just the person with the project that's like getting that person into hot water on the liability side. It's also the stakeholder like you who buys the NFT. So that kind of stuff, I'm like very obviously I'm passionate about it. It really pisses me off. And I think that it needs to be said widely and it needs to be said loudly so we can get past all the hype and say like, okay, this is a really cool mechanism. How can we participate? So that's my piece for now. Christos, I'm going to make you the host so you can share screen and then let's like dive into.
Yeah. Two things just to build on what you shared, Sula. One is that, as it relates to kind of this question of regulatory risk and securities, the argument or the concern is that in the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission has a standard for what defines a security. It is maybe a little bit outdated. It's based off of something called the Howey test, a Supreme Court ruling, I think from like 1946 or like 1936. I'm forgetting the exact date, but it lays out 4 different conditions. And the most important condition is that there is an expectation of profit. So when there are NFT projects that are saying by holding an NFT, you will make money, that, okay, check the box on there's an expectation of profit. And so that is where they're getting into a lot of this, kind of scammy behavior, and they're not being transparent. And as a holder of it, if you were to buy from such a project, then you have to ask questions around, how do I report this on my taxes? What is it valued at? Lots of things like that. And so that's number one. Number two is on Kimberly's comment around never knowing about like that there's a degree like this. That's totally right, and that's because higher education is very slow to actually adapt, and honestly, to the incentives for kind of building out new curricula aren't really there, because faculty get promoted to tenure based off of publication with a narrow set of journals. And so, speaking from experience, I had said one article to a journal that it was about the effects of what are called, I won't get too much into the details, but it's just a useful analogy about how airdrops affect market capitalization. So airdrops are when an NFT project decides to reward certain users on the basis of, hey, you're early, you're believing in us, and so we're going to give you a gift later on. And so there's an open question about whether or not they're actually effective. And the editor was just like, oh, this is too niche of a subject, try submitting to like a more specialized journal. It's like, this is literally one of the biggest topics of discussion in DeFi and decentralized
And
finance.
also
And
because
so,
people are getting defrauded, and that's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
something
yeah,
that we
yeah.
want to avoid. So
So,
okay,
yeah.
but we need to we're starting basics today, so let's not
Yeah,
go
yeah,
down
yeah.
the
No, I didn't want to get too much. I want to make the point that like, this is why people aren't really talking about it, because the incentives in the current institutions aren't really there. But Nicosia is doing a really wonderful job of it. So without further ado, I'll share screen and welcome everybody that just joined. Kyla and let's see. So this is showing, right? There we go. Okay. So NFT masterclass.
Yes.
There we go. So most basic question, what is an NFT? It is just a digital asset, which means that it could be literally art, it could be music, it could be a contract over a piece of real estate. It's anything that gets digitized and then gets uploaded to the blockchain. What is a blockchain? Well, we could go peel back the onion in a number of different ways, but the blockchain, think of it as a common infrastructure, a digital infrastructure where activities are recorded. So if you think about like a cargo ship, there's different pieces of units that are being placed into that cargo ship, and you need a way of deciding what is tracked. And so the decision making is kind of centralized. Somebody says, yes, this piece is now on board the cargo ship. On the blockchain, it's a decentralized consensus making process. Each blockchain, think of each blockchain maybe as like even a country for that matter, just like some decentralized body of individuals have a different way of agreeing what becomes public and what becomes immutable or non-changing on the blockchain. So NFTs are just digital assets that get uploaded to the blockchain. They're associated with crypto in the sense that they are traded using digital assets. So you might list something in an Ethereum or in Avalanche or whatever type of digital currency you want to put it in. And but it doesn't necessarily have to just be digital. We've been doing some writing in Living Opera around the concept of a phygital, which I don't know, we can debate about whether that's the best word to use for describing these objects, but a phygital just refers to a digital and a physical connection. And so you might have art that has a physical manifestation of it as well. And so it's associated with crypto, but it doesn't just need to be digital. The reason why we're especially interested in it is because we believe that this has massive value for artists and for creators more generally. Sula and I we're going through some articles this morning, and we're just, I mean, this is what Norm and Sula already kind of knew because they've been obviously working in this space for 15 plus years each. But the current model within arts and entertainment is one where the record labels will take upwards of 80% of revenues from the actual artists, and even the highest performing, however you measure that, the highest grossing, the most known artists, at best they can negotiate a 50-50 cut. So it's still, they're taking a lot of the IP, and with a lot of these 360 deals, they get all the IP. So you have your talents and you are creating something completely new, and then you don't have IP protection, intellectual property protection over it. Classical music does everything on contract, and Sula, Norm, if you want to say a little bit about this just from
so this is like a really pertinent example, but basically both Norman and I have appeared on DVD, on international television. And the way that works, if you do a DVD or a CD or whatever in classical music currently, you are paid your contract to do the performance. And then in terms of revenues that come from that piece of multimedia, you basically don't get anything, or you get very little. So one time Norman did a really big production at the Bregenz Festival in Austria. He sang Tamino. It was amazing. They made a DVD, and it's available. You can still find it on Amazon. It's all widely distributed. We were actually on an Austrian Airlines flight and saw Norman on the promo video. And we were like, oh my gosh, it's Norman. That's so cool. But that didn't benefit us in any way financially. And how much money did you make?
I think I got a check one time, like 3 or 4 years after we'd initially done the production, and I think I got 50 euros.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to react to that, but anyway. So and like we've had friends who have done, millions of streams, which sounds really cool, but financially speaking, does nothing for them. Now you could say, all right, well, there's an effect where it's like you do 1 million streams, people know you can book more jobs. Okay, that's fine.
True.
But in the meantime, it used to be that those streams meant something like for your pocketbook. So that's what we wanted to talk about in terms of on contract. And so Christos, can you just talk about how NFTs provide that direct way of paying artists?
Yeah. And one thing to build on is that it might be feasible to do something on contract for a certain duration of time, but when all your work is on contract and you're always giving away your IP, that is a different financial strategy for life that is a little bit more precarious versus maybe you do it for visibility for a year or for a few tactical jobs. Because that's actually the way that when we write for the media, we're not getting paid for that. We just are like, wow, this is an idea that we would like to shine visibility on. So there's reasons to be tactical about that, but when that's all you're doing, that can really be kind of financially harmful. The other point here is just around how NFTs do provide a direct way of remunerating creatives. And by direct way, it's just like you mint an NFT and somebody buys that goes directly into your bank account or into your digital wallet, which it's primarily is how the transfer happens. And it goes in fast. You don't need to wait 3 months. It can happen just within seconds. I mean, within 40 seconds. And so the challenge, of course, is around how do you drive visibility to the project, and that's something where you need to put in the time. You have to build a community, and by community, a lot of people in the NFT space mean giving out like a bunch of discounts or saying retweet this and you'll get this, and it's like that's not really community. That's transactional at best business, but at worst, it's just actually I don't know, just think of something a little bit more negative than that. Maybe a little bit. I don't know, sometimes fraudulent or sometimes just tit for tat. And so building real community takes time. And that's one of the things that really resonated with me when I first met Sula and Norman was like, they really care about this. And I've just been learning so much about the arts and about the amount of practice and hard work and the exhaustion that it does on your body when you're practicing for that long, since it's obviously like an extreme sport, which is most people don't think about because they don't know genuine artists in their lives. And so that's something that we're all trying to share the experience with. Now, let's see, next slide. So the future of music NFTs, we believe that it's going to streamline the supply chain by reducing the number of intermediaries. The reason why there's so little money left over for the artist today or for the creator today is because there have to be all these different payouts in the supply chain. So the artist sings, records, does whatever, and then there's all these different people that end up taking a different share of the pie. And in fact, the way that the gaming industry, for example, let's just take gaming as like a small example that makes, I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars every year. The way that they actually use artists is by buying up audio packs. So collections of music and songs, and they buy that at a massive discount. They don't buy it and say, hey, I'm buying from this individual artist. What NFTs would be able to do is allow for much easier search and remuneration to individual artists, so that a big gaming company can say, hey, we want these 12, these 30, but we don't want the 1,000 others that just come with it. So it streamlines the intermediary process. It also provides funding for creatives directly, like we were just saying, that you just link up your digital wallet, somebody buys the NFT, that goes to you within a matter of just a minute. And lastly, we believe that this will displace streaming. So this is a claim that we think is true, and we're putting our money where our mouth is. We believe that NFTs are kind of the future, and so streaming is just we more think of this as like kind of displace the business model of streaming. There will still be digital content that is streamed, but the way that streaming is financed is through artists that put in a lot of work and then make like some 0.01% of every view of that. And so is it better to have 1 million streams where you make 0.01% or 10,000 streams where you're making 90%? You can certainly obviously.
And by the way, it's not just us who think that. I was literally like Googling around and looking around, and I saw it. If I'm not mistaken, just research this yourself, but I'm pretty sure that Snoop Dogg just took his record label and is like, this is what we're doing now. So I was like,
It is happening. I mean,
Yeah.
there are different people testing it and working, and it's definitely happening.
Yeah, but it's interesting. He's been very
Yeah,
vocal.
especially in these other genres. Who was it, Sula, when we were sitting in the audience back in November of 2021? Who is that rapper that we listened to?
Oh my gosh, we're listening to Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes. Yeah,
Like,
you're right.
we were in the room. His voice, you guys. Wow, like his voice is amazing. Like just speaking voice. I mean, like just hearing him interviewed, and we were just like so like only a few rows away. I was like you just kind of wished he would have. You wish he would have like literally gone into it and started like rapping. But anyway, yeah, that was incredible, and he's going all in for it as well. And but they're doing it tactically. Like they understand the business model, and they understand for them, they have the bargaining power because they are who they are. It is, of course, more challenging for us without that worldwide visibility. But I do think we have an opportunity to do the same thing in our business. Right now, there are some early adopters. I think the Dallas Symphony has done a collection. There is some talk from major opera companies in Europe. We only know because we know somebody who knows them, not because they're saying it widely. So this is happening, and I'm excited. This is partly why we've decided to pivot Living Opera into this, because what do we say? Like, you're just gonna try. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work, and that's fine. Because it's not, for me at least, I'm like, it's not like our current model for classical music is just so great anyway. I mean, I'm just saying that honestly, like, so if it doesn't work, it's fine. We'll just go back to
We'll do something else,
or we'll do something else or whatever. But for us, and now go to the next slide, Christos. This is our pilot project for this technology. It's called Magic Mozart. We've been working on it for literally months and months and months. And Elizabeth knows, well, and Monda knows, we have been pouring everything into this to create a model that would do several things. So this is an arts philanthropy model. This is not a security. This is not going, anybody who buys this, we are not saying you're going to make a lot of money holding this NFT. It is, yes, welcome to everybody who's joined. It is a token that does several things. Well, I'll talk about the very end. I'll talk about point 4, Christos, if you'll go through the first 3 points, because I want to make sure we're just really succinct and extremely clear on all of that.
Yeah, of course. So in the United States, about nearly $24 billion is given to charity, at least as of 2021. And that's a lot of money. That money, unfortunately, doesn't really filter through to the underlying artists. And so what has been on Norm's and Sula's heart, and that I've kind of joined forces with them to help facilitate, is how do we make something better where the money, there are people that want to give, but how do you ensure that the money that is being given is actually having a return on that investment? So shaping people's lives, being invested in the way that donors actually want, versus it going to pay some absurd high salary for somebody within the symphony that maybe is making 3x the amount that they probably should be making, but is making because there is lack of transparency around the decision-making process. So on arts philanthropy, we are building the Magic Mozart collection is what's called a generative art collection. Generative art refers to where there's some component of structure and some randomization. So the structure here is a portrait of Mozart, but the randomization is what's the background, what's he holding, what's he wearing, what does his hair look like? So there's 5 different layers that are all randomized, and that induces 6,200 different unique possibilities in our art collection. In addition, Sula discovered last Christmas Eve a game that Mozart created called Musikalisches Würfelspiel, which is a dice game that when you roll the 2 dice, the combination of numbers leads to the composition of different musical notes. And so Mozart created this. There's 176 different musical fragments that get joined together.
It creates a new minuet.
Minuet, yeah. And so what's beautiful here is that you get this really neat sounding music that all goes together, and we're combining the digital art minuets. I know, minuets. But it still falls under the umbrella of music. But
no, we just like that it's neat sounding music.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
Well, it is. It's like super.
It is neat
okay,
sounding.
It's
Yeah.
Chris says, don't dwell on that part.
Okay.
I can talk
So-
about that part.
Okay. So anyways, long story short, we're going to use this collection to then build out the Living Arts DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, which creates this new community structure for decentralizing grant making. People can submit proposals. So as an artist, if Mondo wants to submit a $1,000 proposal, write something up, the community votes on it, you get that directly sent to you within a matter of minutes once it's voted upon. And the beauty here is that the use of smart contracts automates away a lot of things that are typically left to people or to discretion. That adds time, it adds confusion, it adds lack of transparency. All of this will be on the blockchain so that it's clear and people can say, hey, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if, and so there is transparency on both sides. And then as Sula mentioned earlier, we've been talking with legal counsel. And so one of the things that works to our advantage is that there's not an expectation of profit here. We are targeting people that want to give to the arts and want to see singers, artists of all shapes, all different genres thrive. And so we're not saying like, if you put in 1,000 today, you are going to make 1 million tomorrow. Like this is we believe in the arts and we have a new model for facilitating philanthropy so that this sector grows, more people understand and can kind of just journey with artists so that it's not just like depending on one person that cashes a check for $1 million, but this model of micro philanthropy. So yeah, Sula, if you want to share your experience that kind of launched you into this.
Great. So can we just go back to like the screen so I can see everybody's black squares and the ones who have faces on. Okay, so welcome to everybody who's here, and I'm so glad that you're here. So part of this idea came from, I guess I'll put, oh, you're still the speaker, never mind that, I was gonna put speaker view, but anyway, came from an experience that I had that I haven't really shared that much, and I'll try to keep it really short because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. But when I was a student, I, was sort of on that fast track, like the thing you're supposed to do, you do your program and then you're supposed to maybe go to grad school and then you go to young artist program and then maybe you do a competition, and I was all on the way for all of that. And I got a big wrench thrown in my plans. Like 7 days after I graduated, I was actually diagnosed with cancer. And that was obviously not in the plan. And it was thyroid cancer. So they had to cut open my throat, which I don't know if you can see like the scar. So that really, really just slowed me down, as it would. And I just felt like a lot of those opportunities, I didn't just feel like it, a lot of those opportunities or all the opportunities that I had just went away because, I had this disruption. So I'll skip a lot of details here, but basically one day after I got better and I started to try and train again, I was approached by a local philanthropist who said, hey, I've been watching you for some years now. I've been following your story. I know it's happened. What are your plans now? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. And maybe I'll go to Europe or I'll try to go to grad school again in the States. I don't really know. And he said, well, look, I think you're really talented. And if you'll write me a business plan, I have a small foundation. We do grants for the symphony and for the opera, but we also do individual grants. And we would like to know if there's a way we can help you with a micro grant. And I was like, what? So I did the business plan thing. I didn't know what that was. I Googled like, what's a business plan, wrote it, tried to do it the way, that people say online is effective, had the meeting, he approved it, got the money. And I then went and did what I said I was going to do in the plan. And that ended up resulting in me being in the right place at the right time to be discovered, so to speak. I was discovered in someone's living room in Berlin when I gave a concert. And the rest is history. I met an agent, I started performing, but that was really the key that allowed me to get started. And so we're trying to replicate that at scale here. This is our dream with our first collection. I know for those of you who wanted to learn about investing, we are going to do other collections that we do believe will grant NFT holders financial benefits, but that's because we want to do this right. We're still researching how to do that. We didn't want to start with it. We wanted to start with something more straightforward, but furthermore, in terms of building this community from the philanthropy side or from the non-artist side, because we're not saying, oh, artists need to buy this. The point is to help artists. It's to grab another set of people who want to help the arts. And instead of having to invest $10,000 to see their, money do something, instead it's more like 300 or 500, and it's a micro grant. So, and then we, distribute that as the governing body we create sees fit. So that's the idea behind this collection. Other ones coming, you can go on our website and see what we have in mind for other collections that we're creating. We also have one called Tosca's Kiss, and that's going to be an anti-human trafficking awareness campaign to also help survivors and just do cool stuff. Some of you know that I serve on the board of an anti-trafficking organization. So we're trying to think of creative ways to use this technology that isn't just like partying in Miami Beach, which is great, but maybe sends like a signal that this is sort of, I don't know. Well, I don't want to editorialize, but anyway, this is what we see as the future of a project of NFTs that will actually benefit people and rally worldwide communities in a different way than just around social media, because then everybody owns the project together rather than, you go on Instagram. Mark Zuckerberg owns Instagram. He can shut it down whenever he wants. I mean, I suppose okay, I guess I could shut down Magic Mozart, as the owner of it. But anyway, I'm getting off track.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna, Megan asked a question in the chat that I thought it ties really well with what you're describing.
Great. Yeah.
right now.
So go on.
Yeah.
So like that's the end. That's the end of this. I want to end the recording, and then we can have a discussion, just the folks who are here in the room. So that's also just to say, Chris, can you end the recording since you're the host now?
Yeah. So,
thanks everybody for joining.
Thank
And
you.
replay. Bye.
Let's see. Stop.